Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 443 based on novel. So let's start. There were 9 cultivators standing on the 9 platforms, all of them male. 7 of them were old men, while the remaining 2 looked to be around 40 years old. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. The smell of blood that rushed into this sealed land when they entered. Their 9 platform were almost completely dyed red and filled with blood. What was even more shocking was that there was a large amount of souls floating on the platforms. The souls all had twisted expressions and were letting out mournful cries. Not one of these 9 were weak, 5 of them were around the 4th heaven's blight and 2 at the 5th heaven's blight. One of the old men was extremely eye-catching as he had a head of blood-red hair. There was also a faint joss flame coming from him. He was clearly someone who was half a step into the 3rd step. However, it was obvious he had received a lot of external help to get this far, and without a large amount of joss flames, he wouldn't finish the last step. His body emitted a sense of majesty, clearly showing that he had a high status and would normally not appear before people. The last person was a middle-aged scholar holding a feather fan. His eyes narrowed and there was a flash of light within them. He was only at the 3rd heaven's blight, so holding a spot here meant that there was something extraordinary about him. What shocked everyone the most were the platforms under their feet. The platforms were almost all 10,000 feet wide, but the one under the old man who was half a step into the 3rd step was 20,000 feet wide, twice the size of the other platforms. Not even a second-order platform, yet they want to covet the treasures here. The old man who was half a step into the 3rd step calmly looked at Wang Lin's group. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he stared at the platform under the old man, but he remained silent. The surrounding cultivators were all silent as they had obviously noticed how strong Wang Lin was. They began to gather together with Wang Lin in the lead. The old man's gaze landed on Wang Lin. Not only him, but all 8 remaining cultivators looked over with killing intent. It seemed a bloody battle was about to erupt. However, just at this moment, the middle-aged scholar at the 3rd heaven's blight stepped forward and whispered something in the old man's ear. The old man's eyes narrowed and he looked at the ground and at the platform on the back of the ancient god. Then his gaze swept by Wang Lin's group. "You, come here." The old man pointed at one of the cultivators beside Wang Lin. He was someone who had managed to steal a platform, and after being pointed by the old man, his face turned pale. After hesitating, he didn't dare not come out. He stepped out and clasped his hands at the old man. He then respectfully said, "Junior, greet esteemed Ling Dong." "Oh? You recognize this old man?" There was no anger on the old man's face. The cultivator quickly said, "The name of esteemed Ling Dong is famous in my ancient star system, so of course Junior knows. Go break the seal on the back of the ancient god. If you can break 10% of it, I'll let you live," the old man slowly said, but his words were filled with power and were impossible to reject. The cultivator's expression immediately changed, making it seem like he was struggling. After a moment, he nodded and took a deep breath. His hand formed a seal and he began casting a spell as he charged at the platform on the back of the ancient god. In a flash, the cultivator arrived before the ancient god and looked at the platform filled with red fog. After a long time, he clenched his teeth, his right hand formed a seal, and a shadow appeared. The shadow formed a right hand, and it immediately hit the fog. The fog roared and instantly turned into a big mouth. It moved at an unimaginable speed toward the cultivator to devour him. There was no chance to dodge at all and a miserable scream echoed. The cultivator was devoured and dragged into the fog. Screams continued to echo, shocking everyone. "It is indeed a Tao spirit. I just don't know what rank." The old man who was half a step into the 3rd step was filled with joy. He took a step and arrived next to the red fog. He waved his right hand at the fog. Just as his hand was about to land, a roar came from the fog once more. The fog churned violently, formed a devilish shadow, and blew out some red fog. The red fog was extremely fast, and it charged toward the old man. They collided with a thunderous bang and the old man's face suddenly changed. He immediately retreated hundreds of feet before he stopped. At least rank 6. Unfortunately, there is a restriction on it. It is the ancient soul restriction. The third heaven's blight middle-aged scholar's eyes lit up. When he spoke, another middle-aged man among the remaining 7 narrowed his eyes as if he had spotted some clues. Esteemed Ling Dong looked at the red fog on the platform and said, "Ancient soul restriction. This old man doesn't know much about restrictions. How confident are you in breaking it?" The middle-aged scholar hesitated a bit and said, "Well, only 20%. Esteemed Ling Dong frowned. 20%? Wang Lin still calmly watched all of this unfold. He had already noticed the restriction on the red fog ever since he arrived. This restriction was indeed the ancient soul restriction, but it had other restrictions mixed in as well. It was not easy to break. He remained silent and wanted to see how these 9 people would break it. Just as esteemed Ling Dong frowned and was pondering, an old man in green walked forward. He clasped his hands and said, "Esteemed Ling Dong, I'm a bit confident in breaking this restriction, it's just that after breaking it," he didn't finish speaking and looked at esteemed Ling Dong. Esteemed Ling Dong said, "If you can break the restriction, you can have any other treasures beside the Tao spirit. Also, you can take most of the treasure these little cultivators got from the platforms." The eyes of the old man in green overflowed with ecstasy and he said, "Rest assured, this old man has been studying restrictions since childhood. Others may not say it, but there is no restriction this old man can't break. Even fellow cultivator Xiao Jing is not my match." His gaze swept by the middle-aged scholar. The scholar revealed a smile and clasped his hands. "What Senior Gao said is correct, I'm only a latecomer compared to Senior." The old man in green laughed and proudly said, "Restrictions are the origin of formations. This old man has studied them for nearly 10,000 years and has seen the grand path. I have developed a method that can break all restrictions. Also, the restriction inside the fog is not some ancient soul restriction. This old man has delved into restrictions and has never heard of ancient soul restrictions." After he spoke, he charged at the red fog. When he was within a few dozen feet of it, his right hand formed a seal and then he waved it, causing restriction lights to flash. An instant later, a giant rune appeared. This rune was formed by restrictions, and it shined brightly. Its momentum seemed to be able to confront the red fog, and the roars coming from within the red fog stopped. It was as if there was a gust of wind, and the red fog retreated a bit. The old man became even more proud as he pointed forward with a roar. The rune charged at the red fog. This old man, as the old man roared, the rune charged at the red fog. However, before he could finish speaking, the red fog turned into a big mouth once more. It moved extremely fast and devoured the rune along with the old man in green. His unfinished words became a miserable scream and echoed across the world. Esteemed Ling Dong's face turned black. He didn't think that the old man who had gone in filled with confidence would only bring a result like this. A giggle came from a cultivator beside Wang Lin. This giggle came from the fat cultivator. His laughter immediately caught esteemed Ling Dong's gaze. The fat cultivator quickly took a few steps forward past Wang Lin and he clasped his hands at esteemed Ling Dong. His face was filled with a smile as said, "Junior Xu Fu greets esteemed Ling Dong. This junior is a bit confident in breaking open the restriction. Junior has no connection to the people here, we just happen to be sent here together. Junior also has a secret to tell Senior. Among this group of people here, one of them is an ethereal. If you can break the restriction on this fog, I'll let you live, give you treasures, and let you follow me." Esteemed Ling Dong interrupted the fat cultivator's words. He was not interested in the secret. All he wanted was the Tao spirit inside. "Rest assured, I have observed the red fog for a long time. Although I'm not 100% confident in breaking it, with Senior's help, I'm 70% confident." The fat cultivator was happy and turned around to coldly look at Wang Lin. He sneered with the corner of his mouth and charged at the red fog. He stopped 100 feet away from the fog and was filled with caution. His hand quickly worked the abacus and then the abacus broke. The beads flew out and turned into a restriction vortex. Then the fat cultivator took a deep breath and charged at the red fog. Courting death. Wang Lin looked at him calmly and sneered in his heart. He then looked up at the middle-aged scholar with the feather fan and saw a look of disdain. Although this person is only at the third heaven's blight, to be able to mix with these people means he is very cunning. Perhaps he also wants what's inside the fog. Wang Lin's mind was like a demon's, and a restriction silently appeared under his foot. The fat cultivator's hand quickly formed seal and the abacus beads rotated rapidly around him. As he waved his hand, the beads formed a strange figure before him. This figure looked like the remnants of a chess board. The beads were like chess pieces on a board. His face became extremely serious and he began to chant. As he did so, his right hand formed a seal. In an instant, the chessboard-like beads charged at the red fog. The chessboard closed in on the red fog in a flash, and roars came from inside the fog. A portion of the fog rushed out and attempted to devour the chessboard. A thunderous bang echoed, and just as the red fog was about to devour it, 5 colored lights shined from the chessboard. An illusory figure also appeared. It formed seals and its palm slammed at the red fog. An invisible force appeared and pushed the red fog back. The chessboard was not devoured. Looking at this, the surrounding cultivators all narrowed their eyes. There was a hint of joy in the eyes of esteemed Ling Dong. Only the middle-aged scholar revealed a look of disdain. The fat cultivator was filled with pride, and he raised his right hand. The chessboard closed in on the red fog, with the illusory figure around it. Wang Lin calmly looked at all of this unfold, and his eyes lit up. The fat cultivator's method had some merit. The abacus was an extraordinary treasure. Each bead inside contained a lot of restrictions, and when combined, they could create wonderful effects. If it was an ordinary restriction, he might have had a chance, but these small tricks couldn't break open the red fog. The restrictions inside the red fog were extremely complex. Not only did the fog contain the ancient soul restriction, there was also the time restriction mixed in. The combination of the two was extremely powerful. The chessboard got close to the red fog and immediately disappeared inside. Then a violent roar came from the fog. Just as everyone looked closely, the expression of the fat cultivator changed. His face turned pale and he coughed out blood. It was clear that his treasure had been destroyed. It was connected to his origin soul, and that connection had been cut by force. He immediately tried to retreat, but after retreating only 2 steps, the red fog surged like crazy and extended forth, covering the sky. It then dragged the fat cultivator inside. His miserable screams were ear-piercing, and they echoed across the area. The sounds of bone cracking shook everyone's hearts. Esteemed Ling Dong was gloomy. If there was no way to break it, he would have to break it open by force. However, doing so would cause great damage to the Tao spirit inside. If it was like this, it won't be worth it even if he opened the restriction. Since this old man can't open it, then no one else can have it. Might as well open it by force and destroy it. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes and he was about to step forth. However, just at this moment, the middle-aged scholar holding the fan clasped his hands and said, "Esteemed Ling Dong, before trying to open it by force, let me try. Even if I can't open it completely, I might still break a part of it. Then perhaps when esteemed Ling Dong breaks it by force, the damage on the Tao spirit will be less." Esteemed Ling Dong turned around and looked at the middle-aged scholar. He pondered a bit and then nodded. "You have to be careful." The middle-aged scholar nodded with a smile. He knocked the fan in his hand and slowly walked toward the fog. Wang Lin's expression was calm, but he began to pay attention. More and more restrictions formed below his feet without anyone noticing. The middle-aged scholar approached the fog. After a while, his right hand formed seals as if he was calculating something. There was flash of deduction in his eyes. A moment later, his right hand moved forward, forming after images, and landed on the red fog. Roars came from the red fog. As the roars echoed, the red fog formed a hand that shot toward the middle-aged scholar. However, he acted like it didn't exist. He formed another seal and pointed forward. Thunderous rumble echoed. It was unknown where the middle-aged scholar had pointed. The red fog trembled and collapsed before reaching him. This scene caused esteemed Ling Dong's eyes to light up. Ling Dong narrowed his eyes. This middle-aged scholar indeed had some skills, and his skills in restriction was far above the people before him. Sweat appeared on the middle-aged scholar's forehead, but his expression was calm. In a flash, he moved like a dragon and circled the red fog. His hand didn't stop moving, continuing to form seals as he pointed at the red fog. The roars from inside the fog became even more violent. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and he sneered. Although the middle-aged man had hidden himself very well and acted like he was breaking the restriction, Wang Lin had seen through his true intent. Just at this moment, the middle-aged scholar suddenly roared. His body stopped moving and his hands mercilessly pressed down on the red fog. Esteemed Ling Dong, please help me. Use the power of Joss flames and I can break half of the restriction. His voice sounded urgent and esteemed Ling Dong seemed to trust the middle-aged scholar a lot. He didn't hesitate at all to step forward. Then he raised his right hand and Joss flame energy gathered in his palm. It condensed in his hand in an instant and then he slammed down on the red fog. A palm print made of Joss flames shot out and rapidly closed in on the red fog. It landed on the red fog almost at the same time as the middle-aged scholar's hands. A thunderous rumble echoed and a portion of the red fog dissipated. However, just as a hint of joy appeared on esteemed Ling Dong's face, the red fog raged and immediately turned into a mouth that devoured the pale middle-aged scholar. Miserable screams echoed inside the fog, and at this moment, the red fog devoured esteemed Ling Dong's Joss flame palm print. A destructive roar erupted from inside and echoed violently like thunder. This caused this sealed area to shake violently. At this instant, that destructive aura suddenly erupted in the form of a storm that could destroy the world. This storm was formed by red fog and moved far too fast. This caused the world to begin to collapse. Some cultivators were too slow and their bodies immediately collapsed. Esteemed Ling Dong's expression changed, even he felt danger coming from the storm. He retreated without hesitation and landed on the 20,000-foot platform. He then waved his hand and shot into the sky. Not only him, but everyone else also retreated. Some were slow and were devoured by the red fog. Wang Lin retreated the fastest, even faster than esteemed Ling Dong. At almost the same instant the middle-aged scholar was devoured, the restrictions he had gathered under his feet shot toward the earth. Then he charged into the sky without any hesitation. The red storm was like a tide, and its destructive aura tore the sky. Everyone began to frantically escape and rushed into the spatial rift in the sky. Everyone dissipated and more than 10 people were devoured by the red storm. Including Wang Lin, less than 11 people escaped into the spatial rifts. The red fog now filled the entire world, leaving no gap. After a long time, the fog began to churn and slowly retreated back onto the platform on the ancient god's back. The sky was now dark red and the spatial rifts were all gone completely, sealing the entrance to this place. The roars from the fog gradually disappeared and the surroundings became completely silent. Time slowly passed. After half an hour, a person slowly walked out of the fog. This person was the middle-aged scholar that everyone thought had died. He revealed a sinister smile containing a hint of pride in the corner of his mouth. So what if he is esteemed Ling Dong? No one can take treasures I take fancy to. Just a small trick and everyone was forced out. Now the Tao spirit inside belongs to me. As he laughed like crazy, the pride on his face intensified. He looked at the fog with greed in his eyes. He then licked his lips and waved his hand. 9 pieces of jade appeared in his hand. Ancient soul restriction, time restriction. Although I can't break them open, I can make them stop working for 20 seconds. The middle-aged scholar waved his right hand and the 9 pieces of jade gave off a ghostly light. They formed a circle and shot toward the red fog. The roars became even more violent, but after a moment, the roars stopped due to the ghostly light from the jades. The middle-aged man stepped into the circle formed by the jades and then his hand ripped an opening inside the restrictions that had stopped. His eyes were filled with greed and he was about to step into the crack he had torn open. However, just at this moment, a miserable scream echoed inside the world. Impossible, there is still an active restriction. I should have stopped all restrictions. The middle-aged man quickly retreated back out. His face was bloody and his body was rapidly decaying. In the blink of an eye, after only retreating 30 feet, he rotted into a corpse. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, 20 seconds went by. The ghostly light from the jades quickly dissipated and the red fog showed signs of activity again. Soon, it was active once more. 15 minutes quickly passed by and the corpse opened his eyes. His appearance quickly changed back to the middle-aged scholar. It looks like no one can sneak into this place. The middle-aged scholar's eyes lit up and he walked toward the red fog. Looking at the red mist, the middle-aged scholar smiled. He was born cautious and was as cunning as a fox. In the ancient star system, he was called the sly fox. Although he was only at the third heaven's blight, he always believed his schemes could make up for it. This was indeed true. Many times he relied on his schemes to walk between life and death, only to come out as the winner. This time he was scheming to acquire a treasure esteemed Ling Dong wanted, so he had to be even more careful. He still wasn't confident after faking his death once, so he had used the jade to stop the restriction from moving. This was equal to opening the door into the fog, and then he faced his own death once more. If there was someone else like him here, they wouldn't give up this chance and would have rushed out already. Once someone actually appeared and entered the fog, he would immediately launch a counterattack and trap that person inside the fog. This person was also very confident in his fake deaths. Early in his years, he learned a spell that would allow his death to look very real. Even his origin soul would collapse, and it would be impossible for others to tell the difference. In addition, he had made it look like he was rotting. Now that the middle-aged scholar was certain, he walked up to the red fog and waved his hand. The red fog was pushed back, revealing the 9 jades. He pointed at the jades, causing 6 of them to collapse, and black gas came out. This gas causing the red fog to freeze once more. Among the 9 jades, 6 of them were used to kill and had nothing to do with stopping the restriction. There was a hint of pride on his face as the middle-aged scholar walked into the portal formed by the 3 jades. He put all his heart into what he was doing and began to calculate. Then his right hand pulled at the red fog before him and he slowly ripped it open. Shortly after, a few layers of fog were peeled by him. The middle-aged scholar was filled with excitement and he raised his hand once more. As soon as his finger touched the fog, the corner of his mouth moved and he unconsciously revealed an extremely bizarre smile. The moment the smile appeared, his expression suddenly changed. He quickly retreated while his right hand swiped over his face and his eyes filled with terror. However, the strange smile was still on his face, making a clear contrast with the fear in his eyes. Impossible. Impossible. The middle-aged man's body trembled and the fear in his eyes reached a limit. He frantically raised his hand and squeezed his face to get rid of that smile. However, no matter how hard he tried, the smile was still there, and it became even stronger. Blood came out of his mouth, but he didn't seem to notice. He continued to rub his face, but it was no use. How can this be? The middle-aged man's mournful cry echoed, but it came through that strange smile. He gradually lost control and began to laugh out loud. However, the fear in his eyes was drowning him like a tide. Don't laugh, don't laugh. As he laughed, he quickly retreated. However, he only retreated a few dozen feet before his body trembled and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Then his eyes turned pale and he soon fell to the earth. The strange smile was still on his face as he looked at the sky. His origin soul also had that same smile, and he died. Life and death restriction. There was a flash of light on the ground and Wang Lin walked out. Others couldn't understand the restrictions the middle-aged scholar had shot out while moving around the red fog. Even grandmasters of restrictions would find it difficult to find any clues. If not for the fact that Wang Lin knew 3 of the 4 great restrictions and was a grandmaster, he wouldn't have noticed the problem. The restrictions the middle-aged man had sent out at the start would indeed break the restriction, but when the countless restrictions combined, the opposite would happen. Not only would it not break the red fog, it would stimulate it to activate it. Then he had borrowed esteemed Ling Dong's Joss flame to trigger the red fog, causing it to erupt with several times more power than before to kill or drive everyone away. In order to avoid suspicion, he had taken the risk and used some known method to hide in the fog. He had let out that miserable smile and made everyone think he had died. He had successfully killed most of the people here and had even driven the rest out. He had also caused the red fog to seal all the spatial rifts so others couldn't enter through them anymore. After all his scheming, he was the only one here. Doing all of this took guts. Wang Lin looked at the body with a strange smile and waved his right hand. The body collapsed into dust and dissipated. This way, even if you're cheating, there is no chance of you resurrecting. He had long seen through the middle-aged scholar, so he had left a restriction to teleport back here. With his mastery over restrictions, he was not afraid the middle-aged man would find his restrictions, given the middle-aged man's cultivation level. After going through a rift in the sky, Wang Lin had teleported back using the restriction. He didn't kill the middle-aged man, but the middle-aged man hadn't noticed that aside from the ancient soul restriction and the time restriction, the life and death restriction was also present within the fog. As for the middle-aged scholar faking his death, Wang Lin naturally saw this, but it was useless before him. Wang Lin arrived next to the red fog. This simple restriction had taken so many lives. He had once more experienced the cruelty of the cultivation world. Looking at the 3 jades that were stopping the red fog, Wang Lin slowly walked inside. He stood where the middle-aged man was and deduction light flashed in his eyes. It indeed is the life and death restriction. After a moment, Wang Lin raised his right hand and pointed forward. Popping sounds echoed and the fog before him began moving again, forming a vortex. A faint, black line appeared inside the red fog. The black line entangled with the red fog was quite distinct. The key to breaking the life and death restriction was finding the path to life within death. If one could find it and extract the life, the restriction could be broken. However, for people who didn't know the life and death restriction, it was impossible to find it. After observing for a while, Wang Lin's hand quickly formed seals and a restriction appeared in his hand. He took a deep breath and carefully pushed the restriction toward the red fog vortex. Popping sounds echoed and the fog seemed to absorb Wang Lin's restriction. The black line became even more clear. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and without hesitation, his right hand reached out. He grabbed the black line and pulled it out. The black line was completely pulled out by Wang Lin like a snake, then it dissipated. At this moment, the red fog collapsed like hot water being poured on snow. Large amounts of fog dissipated, creating a passage that led to the center of the platform. Wang Lin's eyes flashed but quickly returned to normal and revealed nothing. A burst of joy had appeared, but it was quickly suppressed by him. He was about to rush into the passage. Stop! Just as Wang Lin was about to charge in, a cold voice appeared in this world. Now this is what they call mantis hunting. The cicada and the yellow finch follows. As the voice echoed, a vague figure appeared in the sky. When the figure became clear, it was esteemed Ling Dong, who was half a step into the 3rd step. After he appeared, the 20,000-foot platform appeared as well. At this moment, there was no emotion on his face, and his expression no longer contained that sense of stupidity. There was now a hint of mockery in his eyes. Wang Lin stopped and slowly turned around. His expression was extremely ugly as he looked at esteemed Ling Dong. He let out a bitter smile and panic appeared in his eyes. Junior. Greets esteemed Ling Dong. Wang Lin clasped his hands and was about to take a step back. Esteemed Ling Dong said with a grim expression, when your foot lands, this old man will kill you. Esteemed Ling Dong's plan was flawless and well hidden. Junior admires you. Wang Lin stopped moving and his face turned bitter. He suppressed the panic in his eyes. This old man already knew Xiao Jing's ambition. A mere junior thinking he can fool this old man, simply ridiculous. Although this old man is not good with restrictions, since the two of you excel at it and have opened it for me, then it cost this old man no effort. Esteemed Ling Dong sneered. Wang Lin's subtle actions had made him even more certain, and he said, "Come out and wait on the side." A natural-born Tao spirit needed to be offered a complete soul that hadn't been soul-searched. As far as esteemed Ling Dong was concerned, Wang Lin couldn't cause a commotion and couldn't escape his palm. He was going to let Wang Lin live and use Wang Lin as an offering to the Tao spirit. Wang Lin's face was deathly pale. He seemed to hesitate, but a moment later, he let out a sigh and slowly walked out. The moment he walked out, esteemed Ling Dong waved his right hand and a powerful force formed a bubble around Wang Lin, trapping him inside. He didn't even look at Wang Lin, as he was very confident in his own methods. He stepped into the fog and looked like he was going to rush into the passage. Just as he was about to enter, he suddenly looked at Wang Lin with a gaze like lightning. Wang Lin's expression was still bitter without any change. Although esteemed Ling Dong's gaze was sudden, he didn't see anything. This old man changes his mind, you go in first. Wang Lin was startled. Before joy could appear in his eyes, he quickly suppressed it, but the old man still caught it. The old man laughed and walked in without any hesitation, no longer paying any attention to Wang Lin. He moved like a bolt of lightning and arrived at the center of the passage. However, at this moment, a miserable scream echoed. There is still something left. Wang Lin suddenly looked up with a flash of killing intent in his eyes. This video will end here.